everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. I'm Wendy O'Connell, and our guest today is Gemma Champoli. Gemma has been involved with Experienced Goods here in Brattleboro for over 30 years. Experienced Goods is the thrift store for Brattleboro Area Hospice, which many of us are very familiar with. Before that, she also worked in many human services in the area, in the local area. And so we're here today with Gemma. Hi, Gemma.
Hi, Wendy.
It's good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. I know that's been such a pleasure to get to see you and talk to you.
Yes.
Instead of passing you.
I know.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that.
You're so welcome. We're glad to have you.
I'll try to behave while I'm on the air and be good.
We always try to behave. It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work. Luckily, it's not live, and I do the editing, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So Gemma, yes, you've been in Brattleboro for 30 years, but you had a whole life before that.
Yeah, I came to Vermont probably 40 years ago. I originally came here, I'd been living in St. Louis and was working on my art degree and wanted to come to Vermont to apprentice with a woman who is an Abenaki leader. And I was very interested in learning basketry and weaving and connecting with the local Native community. I came to Burlington originally, and I lived in the Burlington area for quite a few years before I came here.
So working with her, because I know I've seen some of your art that you were doing back maybe 15 or 20 years ago, when you were working on your degree. And did that influence you with your art?
It did. I think one of the things that I really loved about working with Marcia Rhodes actually was her interest in nature, and one of the things I learned right away was how to go out and gather the materials for doing the weaving. And there was a spiritual connection that she would make, like asking the plants before you took materials. So there was a whole practice that I learned that I think was really foreign to me. It's not what I really thought about art, but there was a real spiritual and natural connection in the artwork. And it was very appealing to me. I think that connection, whenever you can make connections to the natural world or the inner world or the outer world or community, it's fascinating to me. And I really loved that connection with her too.
Yes.
So I came and I apprenticed with her, and we had a moment one time, and it'll kind of epitomize the feeling. She had me out, and we were gathering red osier out in this field up in northern Vermont, and there was another elder Abenaki woman that was with us, and we had gone out and cut materials, and we were sitting in the sun, cross-legged on the ground, and we were weaving baskets, and I heard this noise, and I almost swatted it. I thought it was a bug, and I was trying to be respectful because I was, with these women, and trying to show my respect. And this hummingbird landed on the corner of the basket I was making, and it was pretty fascinating. It just was looking at me, and then it flew away. And I looked up, and the Abenaki women just kind of looked at me and smiled and sort of nodded their head. Nothing was said. It was a very interesting practice. I had actually met Marcia Rhodes years before that. I had been involved with the Sunray Meditation Society and worked with Dahani Wahu, who was a Cherokee princess. And so there was a whole spiritual practice that I had been part of the peacekeeping mission back then, which I think really did influence also my interest in social work and art and community. It was a very rigorous practice about how our intentions set our course, and our thoughts are as important equally as our words. And it's a very, I don't know if you're familiar with Dahani Wahu and that whole Sunray meditation, but they were located up in that area. And that kind of was part of why I came as well.
That's fascinating. That's very...
I know, I didn't expect to really talk about that, but I think that's always been a part of my life, that spiritual connection in nature, and I like to work that into my artwork as well. Found objects, my father used to call me a little crow, because I was always, if we went to the beach, the kids would be in the ocean and I'd be picking rocks and shells, that's what I was interested in doing. So I think it really fit well with my personality, to, move those things in.
Yeah, and foundational in that you were younger at that time, and so to have a spiritual input and a spiritual foundation, and then coming out of that and bringing it into your art.
Yeah.
And you're right, the social piece as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, human services.
Yeah, it's Yeah, it's funny how you see those threads weaving themselves, throughout your life and
Yes.
things that you do. They might seem quite different, but there's always those similarities of what you're interested in.
Yeah, and one thing leading to another, or you
Yeah.
look back and you realize, oh, right, that's how I got there. Or
That's
that
how I
was,
got there. And I
yeah.
had no intentions of staying in Vermont. Matter of fact, one of the things I did to make some money while I was here, I was a pretty poor student, and had a room in somebody's house, is I thought it'd be a great idea to pick apples. I had no idea how hard it was to pick apples.
Yeah.
I think I lasted 3 days. The first day I got stung by a bee. The second day I fell out of the tree. So, I had really no intentions of staying here. And then I really did fall in love with, I fell in love with Burlington particularly, and spent about 10 years up there.
And then you came down to Brattleboro. You came south to Brattleboro.
I did. Years ago, I worked for Planned Parenthood. I've worked for a lot of organizations, community service organizations. I worked for a Vermont Housing Finance Agency many, many years ago, and was running a statewide program for them serving elderly housing. We would try to put services into elderly housing developments, and came down here and met somebody and. The rest is history.
Yeah.
I've been here ever since. Yeah. I love Vermont.
Yeah.
I really think of Vermont as my home. I'm probably a Flatlander, considered a Flatlander, but I've been here about 40 years.
Yeah, I know.
And I just, sometimes, people talk about traveling, and I just love being here.
Yeah.
So if I want to travel, it's to go to the lake or, go for a hike here. I
But
think
not to escape. Like a lot
not
of people,
really.
yeah.
I don't. I
Yeah.
don't feel that need being here. It's home to me now.
Yeah, and so your art surfaced again when you went into a graduate program here in town.
I did. I
Yeah.
finished off my degree. I had been working on my degree on and off for years, like a lot of, people who have to go night school and,
Right.
figure out a way to do that. But then I did go to Vermont College when I came to the Brattleboro area and finished off my degree here. That was a pretty wonderful program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was it's a self-driven, it was a self-driven
Yeah.
program, so it really suited my personality.
And you were using a lot of found objects, I believe.
A lot of found
Yeah.
objects, and a lot of, I would say that my study was probably mixed media, considered maybe sculpting, mixed media, that type of thing, but mostly found objects. And ritual, really. That was the
Yes.
other thing that I really built into my study was primitive art, but also ritual in art. And that's not something people talk a lot about the ritual, Most of my study was about primitive art, different cultures, indigenous cultures. But my final study was on chaos and order. And the connection between nature and the spirit and humans, basically. So I did a dance performance with a few friends. I put together a dance performance and designed costumes, and I had to basically do a whole set of artwork. I did one piece where I gathered materials. I walked a river and gathered materials from a river, and I did a sculpted vessel. But at the time when I was doing the vessel, I had found out that my husband from many years ago had passed away. And I didn't know that, and so I had found out while I was doing this study. So I did this whole weaving project on this vessel where every time I would come around, I would tie a knot, and when I would tie a knot, I would say a prayer. And I would talk about a memory about him. And so the whole piece was really a memorial piece that I had done for him. And after the process was done, I buried it. And so there's that, that spiritual connection, and it really is just about expressing ourselves and the things that are happening inside us. And for me, it was a way to move through my grief, and to honor him, because I hadn't seen him in many, many years. So I wanted to think about him in his youth and the positive things that I knew about him. So a lot of the work that I did was about those kinds of connections.
Yes.
And it's a funny thing to talk about because it's so personal.
Yes.
But it's amazing how doing something that can be so healing.
Yeah.
And
to bring it into tangibility too. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it.
Yes, I think so too. And one of the other things that happened, in my final project was I had asked friends from all over the country and actually other places in the world to send me a stone. you know, as a representation of where they were from. And so, matter of fact, I remember the postmistress, I should say, in West Brattleboro, calling me and saying, Gemma, I don't know what's happening, but you're getting all these heavy packages. Because people were sending me rocks from all over the place. So I had literally like, I don't know, 50 or 60 or more rocks from all over the place. And so I talked about that, you know, about where these stones had come from. And at the end of my presentation, I would put them in the hands of the people that were there to observe. And they would hold them like they were sacred objects, you know, because that's kind of how they felt.
Yes, right.
They were representing a family member or a friend or a time or place. And then at the end, people built a cairn as they left. And it was a really touching thing to do.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that I would do that now because I'm in a different place in my life. But back then, it really felt like an opportunity to create ritual people don't have, unless you belong to a community or a church or something, to have time in your life for that. We don't. You know, maybe the holidays, you know, there are family rituals and things that we do. But it's not necessarily something we weave into our day-to-day lives.
That's right, and to create something with some kind of intention also is very powerful, and very powerful, I think, for people either to witness or take part in.
Yeah, I think so too. I remember when I came down here, one of the things, Bonnie Mennel, who's a community member in Putney, she and I met and we worked on some projects together working with women who were recovering from breast cancer.
Right.
And it was the same thing, just like using, you know, doing weaving, but using this container as a metaphor, basically, and letting it hold whatever you needed it to hold.
Right.
And, you know, it is speaking in metaphor and symbolism, but that really has a power in people's lives that they may not realize even sometimes. People will say after they did it, like, I had no idea it would affect me that way.
That's right, You're asked to bring forth something, an
Yeah.
expression.
Yeah, and you have to go inside yourself to think about that, you know. So I love that. I mean, I'm very passionate about that. I don't do a whole lot of that. I mean, some of that goes into, you know, the work that I do at Experienced Goods, but it's different now, you know, slightly different.
It is different. Which brings us to Experienced Goods. Thinking about what a big part it's been in the community, in the center of Brattleboro for these 30 years.
30 years,
starting out in Harmony parking lot and moving a bit down to Flat Street, where you are now. And can you just talk a little bit about the evolution of Experienced Goods over the years?
Yeah, so I wasn't there at the very beginning. It was started in the early years. Allison McCrae and Chris McDermott were some of the original board members. And it was done as a fundraising activity. I think they did yard sales or things like that to raise money. And then they created a little shop in Harmony parking lot. It was very small. It was run by volunteers. I mean, people would take things home and iron them and wash them. It was very, you know, precious in a way. And it just grew and it evolved. And then I think Liza King was brought on as a part-time employee. And Liza grew it, you know, quite a bit. It had many stages of development after that. I came in as a volunteer when Liza was the manager and volunteered there on and off for years. And then, you know, there came an opportunity to step in and become a staff member, which I did, and I was a staff member for many years and then was able to come in and manage it. And, you know, during my time, it really needed to grow out of that space. That location became you know, it just became difficult. We needed a lot more space and we needed a different kind of space for the staff and the community. So that's why we transitioned down there.
It's one place in the community where anyone is welcome.
Yeah.
You know, and there are very few public places where anyone can come in and not feel that they have to buy anything or they have to do anything. And so between, you know, the public library, you know, there are a few other places in town that are like that.
Yeah,
I
mean, people, you know, it is a retail store. Our mission is to raise money for hospice. I think we raised like 64% of the operating budget this year, which is substantial.
That's very
substantial for a small organization. You know, so our mission is to do that. But I think on top of the mission to raise money, it is a community center. And when I talk about community, we were talking about this, that for most people, community means being around people who are of like mind or people who think similarly to you. And that's wonderful. We all need that. We need to be supported by our friends and peers. But to me, that community is more, the community of Experienced Goods is more about diversity.
Right.
It's about people coming together who would not ever normally even maybe be in the same room.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of experience. It's like you said, there are not that many public places. The library, yeah. You know, maybe if you're grocery shopping or something, that too. But there's a different feel there. It's more intentional to bring people together there. And it serves a lot of different purposes in the community. I mean, it raises money for hospice, yes, but it meets the needs of other people in the community as well.
Yes.
And it is a gathering place, you know. I mean, I think sometimes like the co-op is a little bit like that,
That's right.
you know, of a gathering place. But this is a gathering place where people of a wider range in the socioeconomic scale can come together.
That's right, and you've got people who are making donations, you've got volunteers, you've got, as you said, a wide spectrum of shoppers coming in. So in one rack of people looking through clothes, you can have quite a diversity.
Yes, you can have quite a diversity, and you know, people treat each other with respect. It's an interesting place to come and be if you've never been there. You know, it's not the kind of shopping experience for everybody. But it's a very creative and alive place.
It is. It's very obvious that you spend time with your displays.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very obvious that you spend time trying, you know, to really put
we
things
try
on a
to,
shelf.
what I say, create order out of chaos there, you know, and that's sort of life's work anyway, right? Creating order out of chaos.
That's your first art project.
That was my first, and I'm still doing it. Oh my God, I'm still doing it. But, you know, the people who work, you know, the staff that work there, the volunteers, it's a really creative group of people. You know, there's a lot of creative intelligence in that one little building, and hard work too.
What is the job like for you?
Well, it changes.
It has
I mean, I
changed,
think that's one of the reasons I've been there as long. I've never been someone for longevity in my work world. You know, I've been a wanderer and a gypsy most of my life. So the fact that I've been there that long really speaks to how much change there is that's going on there all the time. It keeps me interested. It's a creative place to be. You know, I can create beauty. My crow is alive and well there. You know, I can pick through things forever. But I'm really fascinated about the community and the connections people make there. I mean, it's amazing just to step back and see people greeting each other and being together. You know, as human beings, we are attached to our things. You know, on both sides, it's like to find something special. It's like when you're walking the beach and you find that beautiful shell, people come in there because they're really intrigued by finding something beautiful. I think it's very therapeutic for some people to come there. It's like a treasure hunt.
Oh, sure.
And it's some place that they can come that, you know, they're safe. They can just wander around, take a little break. You know, they can afford to do it, you know. They're welcome to do it. And then, you know, the fact that the community is who has donated it.
Right.
You know, some very fun stories that come out of that store.
Yeah.
Even myself, you know, having a shirt on and then running into a community member whose shirt it was, and it's like, well, I always wanted to get a new shirt, so here I am, right? It's a funny place that way.
Yeah.
But our attachment to things is real, you know? I mean, they're not the most important thing, but they really are an integral part of our lives.
And it's also another expression of our own selves.
And things are filled with stories. I mean, even people who come and donate, there's a lot, you know, we try to be very respectful of people's things.
Yes.
Because it might be your grandmother's dishes or, you know, something that was your child's or, you know.
You've also got a little human resource thing going on at that store in your job, right?
Yeah. People come there that do have needs. You know, it could be that, you know, it's an affordable place to shop. You know, we have people in the community who are disenfranchised and, you know, we try to make space for them there. And it's not always easy, you know, it's not always easy to understand where other people are coming from.
That's right.
It's our work, you know, as human beings. I feel like it's an ongoing challenge to develop tolerance for our differences, you know, especially right now. I mean, it's really become extremely apparent that it's the work that we're still, you know, not very far along.
And I think, you know, Brattleboro in the last couple of years has been really challenged about what community actually is.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this, you know, that, you know, as you said, you know, I have my own community, you have your own, and, you know, there's a lot of overlap, but everyone is part of this community. And I think that the homeless population in Brattleboro has challenged us to look at that and to see how they fit in as our community.
But you're right, you know, this community, like a lot of communities, is really struggling with with people who are less fortunate. A lot of it has to do with addiction and other issues, mental health issues. So it's not an easy thing to understand. And it can be a little, the perception is, I mean, it's not just perception, it can be scary for people. You know, when people are talking a language that you don't understand, then you just don't understand it. So we work, you know, we do the best we can.
As you mentioned, you have the partnerships with, you've got Groundworks, you've got Reach Up, I think that comes in.
Yep, so a lot of our volunteers also come from other programs. We've had court diversion at times. We've worked, you know, we've worked with a variety of different organizations in the community with people who need an opportunity. And we need volunteers, so we're happy. And we have all kinds of volunteers, same as, you know, the people who shop there. It's a wide range of people. So yeah, we work with lots of community organizations, and they help us out, and we try to, you know, give them opportunities and some training and that kind of thing. We also work with a lot of organizations. We donate a lot of things to, you know, that they need, that we might have a large amount of. You know, we put out coats and, you know, we do that all the time. We always have free things available for people in the community. So we do that as well. I feel like a lot of organizations, but ours in particular, I think the Goods is sort of a microcosm of, you know, our community, our larger world.
That's right.
And our differences and our values.
And our acceptance of being able to walk in there and realize, you know.
I mean, we have some bottom lines about people treating each other with respect. There's no violence. There's no violence tolerated. We don't accept people stealing and being disrespectful to the staff or other community members. You know, we have what we expect.
And you have ways of dealing with it.
And we have ways of dealing with it. But, you know, there are going to be times when you're in there and it's not going to smell the greatest, or it's, you know, it's going to be messy, or, you know, there are just certain things that we try to give people the room to relax and, you know, be themselves and not be afraid to be disenfranchised. So it is an important part of our values of the store. It's not our mission, but it's part of our values. The hospice community serves everybody. We try to do that as well with the store on both ends of it, and try to be there for families the best that we can. If people have a death in their family, we try to do what we can to help them.
Yeah, and I think going back a little bit, you did tell me a great story about when you do find someone who's been stealing from you, offering them.
It happens, you know, unfortunately it happens a lot, and it happens for a wide range of reasons. My personal feeling is some of it's about need, and a lot of it isn't about need, you know, because we'll tell people if there's anything you need, you know, because everything we have is from the community, so it should go back out to the community. You know, I'll tell people, if you need something, just come to us. We're happy to help. And we work with a lot of organizations in the community that are providing for people who are in need. You know, if there's a fire in town or somebody, you know, loses their home or things like that, we try to step in the best that we can. But if we catch you stealing, that's, you know, I guess, you know, depends on who in the store you deal with. But again, to me, it's part of the human condition. It's part of our humanity. It's just an element of, you know, it's in all of us in some way, especially if I'm dealing with a young person who, you know, is pushing boundaries or whatever. You know, I feel like I can talk to them as another human being and just say, okay, so here's the deal here. You know, that's not an acceptable choice. I had a young kid come in and put something in his pocket, and it was something for his girlfriend, and you know, at this age, I can sort of have empathy. It's like, oh, you know, he wants to give something to his girlfriend, but I just said, so here's your choice. You know, you can return it to me, and you can come back, or you can take it and give it to your girlfriend, and you won't have the privilege of coming in here anymore. And you know, he got very red in the face, and you know, I didn't really want to shame him, but at the same time, it's a learning experience. You know,
and you were giving him a choice too. You didn't call the cops, you didn't, you know.
It's all about making choices for all of us all the time.
Let's talk a little bit about recycling.
Oh my God, we have 3 hours.
Let's talk about your back room just for a minute or so.
Talk about
the back room.
Oh, the back room, oh my gosh. Well, I always tell people when they get angry with us that they're not going to, that we can't take their donation, I invite them to look into the back room. You know, we have to be thoughtful about the back room. It's a safety issue, but you know, we're going through a transition in our culture right now of, you know, a lot of the population is downsizing. You know, we're getting older, we don't need as much stuff, we've raised our families, our parents are passing away, there's a lot of stuff in the world. So we do have a fair abundance of donations. You know, at times we really have to control the inflow of that. We do ask that people be more thoughtful about how they donate, because it is becoming problematic for us as an organization. We only have the amount of staff we have.
And space.
And you know, there was a time in the history of the organization where people donated to help hospice.
Right.
It was a very conscious decision about giving to hospice. And I think it's become, to some degree, I mean, there's still people who do it that way, but to a large degree, it's become a place for people to bring stuff that they don't know what to do with, or they don't want to throw away. You know, and I try to tell people all the time, it might be usable by someone, but we can't sell it, and that's our mission, is to sell and make money. But I think that's a community problem. I've tried to meet with the town to talk about, you know, what are we going to do? We've got people who have a need to let go of things, and what's their options.
Right.
But it's become a problem for us. So we have to, you know, we have to narrow the gateway a little bit and be a little bit more diligent about saying, we can't take this. You know, it has meaning and value to you, and it might have value to someone else, but it doesn't have retail value.
Retail value, that's right, because you have to stay solvent.
Yes, we have to stay solvent,
And you are having a pop-up coming up.
We are having a pop-up. This is our third pop-up. It's going to be at the Brooks House Atrium, November 30th.
Brooks House Atrium, okay.
Yeah, Brooks House Atrium on Main Street in Brattleboro.
Yep.
November 30th, which is Friday evening.
Right.
From 5 to 8:30. Thank you for letting me say this. And Saturday, December 1st. I think it's 10 to 3. So this is sort of, you know, a little additional fundraising. It's also an opportunity for people, other community members, to see the wonderful things we have at the store. It's important to donate to the store, but it's also important to shop at the store, you know.
right. Yeah.
And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. People have different shopping needs and want to do it in certain ways. But if you have a chance to come in and support us in that way, it's kind of an interesting experience.
It is an interesting experience. And
you
know,
come, you shop.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
I think I'm fully clothed from the goods today.
That's so great.
I tried to put everything on that was from the goods.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, I mean, and you learn to hone your eye. I think, you know, when you shop like that, you know, and you're right. I mean, there are treasures. You never know where you're going to find
I don't think I
something.
could have stayed there as long as I have if it didn't meet some of the values about beauty and, you know, diversity and the connections and community and even the connection to things and making things. I love that part of it.
I know you have dealers coming in a lot, right? And they're scouring as well.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we have amazingly beautiful things all the time. I mean, if you come to the pop-up, that's just sort of a small amount of representation. Oh gosh, yeah, we have like amazing tapestries. We have some phenomenal artwork, beautiful jewelry. I mean, people give us gold and diamonds, and it's really stunning what people donate. It really is. But it's an interesting, like you'll have everything from cards and art that kids have made, you know, right next to, you know, really trained artisans. It's quite amazing
It's
that
very
way.
eclectic.
Yes, it's very
Eclectic and diversity are kind of the keywords to Experienced Goods, right?
It really is that way,
Great. And your regular hours, let's just say, Monday through Friday, 10 to 5:30.
Correct.
Saturday, 10 to 5.
10 to 5:30. Well, we're open 5:30 every day of the
You
week.
are?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you can donate. We're closed for donations on Wednesdays, and we are closed for business on Sundays.
Just on Sundays. And Mondays only if it's a holiday. You've changed that.
Only if it's a holiday. At least for now, we're open Mondays, and you know we'll see if we can continue that. But the time is gone already.
Yeah, it is.
I can't believe
We're
it.
out of town.
I can't believe it.
Yep, I know. Thank you so
Wendy.
much, Gemma.
Thank you so much,
yeah,
too. It's
covered a
fun.
lot of ground.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
It was fun.
Good luck with that pop-up.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Please
thanks.
come.
Yes. Thank you all for coming too today. And do join in the pop-up, which is that first weekend in December, the Friday before and Saturday the 1st. And be with us next week. We'll have someone new on to talk to. Thanks so much for being with us today.